An a-hole for getting a job to get out of taking care of my husband's autistic niece? Original post. My husband, 30 male, became a legal guardian to his sister's daughter, 17 female, 2 months ago. She lost her single mom last year. My in-laws took her in, but they were too old. That was when my husband became her legal guardian despite my concerns. He told me that he would take care of her completely. We got married a year ago after 15 years of dating. I had a very successful career in a physically and mentally demanding field. I had to travel a lot. We wanted to start a family and I agreed to be a stay-at-home mom. I quit my job a few months into our marriage when I got pregnant. Sadly, I had a miscarriage, then his sister died and everything is on hold. In the meantime, I took a part-time job in a related field, which allows remote work so that I'm not bored out of my mind. Sister-in-law was a nurse. She quit her job to take care of her daughter full-time. Her daughter has a variety of issues, including nonverbal autism, a series of development disorder like dyslexia, and severe sensory issues. My husband says that he does most of the work, but he doesn't. Since I am working home part-time, most of the caretaking falls to me. She gets angry and has meltdowns all the time. She doesn't like the food that I make, and most of the time she ends up throwing the food at the floor or at me. I am at my wit's end and it's just so emotionally exhausting. Around December 15th, my husband was working late and asked me to take care of dinner. She is very picky about food. The slightest change in texture or taste from what she is used to can cause a meltdown. She threw the plate at my feet and I ended up bleeding. At that point, I called my husband and asked him to come home ASAP. He said he wouldn't be able to. I went up to my room and told him I am not dealing with this anymore. He came home hours later and she was still crying. He was absolutely furious at me. He called me heartless and irresponsible. I told him I have had enough of both of their ungrateful behaviors and told him that I am going to my mom's and I wouldn't be back until New Year's. He panicked and tried to apologize, but I left. He called me every day asking me to come back. I finally came back and he told me that my stunt had forced him to all available leaves to stay home with her. He told me that he was glad I was back. I told him that I contacted my former company and got my old job back and it starts next Monday. It's an in-office and requires a lot of travel. He asked me who was supposed to stay at home as she cannot be left alone. He has no more leaves and full-time caretakers are too expensive. I told him he promised to take care of everything when he became her guardian and that it was his problem. As you can guess, my family supports me and his family thinks I am being extremely selfish. So I'm asking judgment from impartial strangers. Am I the a-hole in this situation? Now for the top of comments before reading the update. Not the a-hole. Your husband likes being the hero but doesn't have a clue as to how to do the actual work, so he just left it all to you. You have been sorely taken advantage of and I don't think you are qualified to handle this level of need. Your niece needs expert help. By referring to your need for a break as a stunt, it's clear he views you as having had a temper tantrum and he has graciously allowed you to get over your shit, but expects compliance from now on. It has also given you a preview of what parenthood will be. You do the work, he gets to enjoy the hour or two of a happy fed and bathed child that he can play with and hand back. Adding here, please tell your husband to just let her eat the food she can tolerate. I am autistic and it isn't a choice for us. I think the sister is also the a-hole here. I get that she died unexpectedly, but she had children, and she should have had a plan for her child in the event of her death so that her family wasn't scrambling to figure it out. This is especially true given that her daughter is 17 and likely will require care her entire life. Even if the sister lived to an old age, her daughter likely would have required a caregiver in the event of her death. Make a plan for your children if you have them. Also, not the a-hole OP. I wonder what care was in place before this. We can thank Reaganomics for the non-existence of facilities to help people like this niece, people who need full-time care by highly skilled people. Update. A lot of people were messaging me for an update, so here goes. I wish I could say that things got better. My husband took a few days off to interview special needs nanny/caretakers. He ended up finding a good and experienced person to take on the job. He hired her for 9 to 6 during weekdays. One day, she ended up saying she cannot make it for a couple of days due to an emergency. My husband had a meeting he couldn't miss and asked me to look after his niece for the day. I refused, and he took my car keys while I was getting ready and left before I noticed so that I could not go to work. I grew up with a narcissistic, gaslighting father who did stuff like this all the time. I told him to come back in 1 hour or I will call CPS once they get there. I will call a cab and get to work. He ended up driving back, and this turned into a big fight, and I told him that if he does it again, I will walk out and never look back. He apologized and said that he was just desperate. The worst happened 2 weeks ago. I needed to travel for a couple weeks for work, and I could not find my passport. I am a very organized person, and I knew that I did not misplace it. I ended up calling the non-emergency helpline. They ransacked the house and found the passports hidden in his gym bag. It is a crime to steal passports, and they asked me if I wanted to press charges. I said no. Another fight. He told me that he needed me at home that weekend due to a social welfare visit, and he knew that I would not stay even if he asked me. I kicked them both out of my house, and I told him I would call the police if he ever came near me again. My house is a premarital asset. Thank God for that. I told him that I would be filing for divorce. The welfare visit turned into shit as neither of them were living there when the worker showed up, and the social worker also knew about the recent call to the non-emergency helpline. So all in all, she was not impressed with our bullshit. He came by 2 days ago. He told me that he ended up moving in with his parents. They own and live in a small 2-bedroom apartment. That doesn't qualify according to welfare norms. He ended up asking me for another chance. He asked if I would consider letting him and his niece stay until they figure it out, or she would have to go to state's care. He told me that there was no way he could afford rent and a carrier, and he begged me. I told him that I could never forgive him for what he did. He knew my past with my father, and he still went ahead and did it. He suggested that they could move in and we could work on this at couples counseling. I told him that I could never trust him again and that it was over. He asked me if he could get his parents to take in the niece or even relinquish care to the state if I could give him another chance. I think a month's worth of anger burst that day. I told him that even though it may appear as if the problem between us is his niece, it was actually him. He didn't ask me before taking her in. He did nothing to help. He waved my concerns away whenever I felt burnt out. He took on a responsibility without consulting me and dumped everything on me. He chose to take my keys. He chose to hide my passport. I told him things may have been different. Him, his niece, and I may have adapted and became a family if he hadn't made the wrong choice at my expense at every turn. I told him to get out of my house. It was over and I never wanted to see any of them ever again. I still don't know if what I'm doing is right or wrong. I know people wanted some sort of happy ending, but it is what it is. I still have not started the divorce proceedings yet, but I will soon. For now, I'm taking a break as it has been a very emotional and draining couple of weeks. Story 2. Am I the a-hole for not telling my wife to tone down her dancing at our wedding? My wife, 29 female, and I, 29 male, got married last weekend. We've been together since the first year of uni, and I got married on the 10-year anniversary of the day I asked her to be my girlfriend. We've grown up together, gone through thick and thin, and I know there is no one else I want to spend my life with. For context, my wife is half Spanish and we incorporated a lot of Spanish traditions into our wedding. It also meant that with her family being there, the reception turned into quite the party. I was pretty tired after dancing for a while, so I went to sit and talk with my family while my wife kept dancing with her cousins and friends. After a bit of chatting, my mom and aunt essentially told me that they weren't too pleased with my wife's dancing to songs like Low and Sexy Back, saying that her slut drops and wiggling her bottom like that were inappropriate on her wedding day and were disrespectful to me. To be honest, I didn't see anything wrong with the way that she was dancing. It was nothing more than I think any person would dance to songs like that in a club when they were having fun and had a couple of drinks. I told them as such. They said I should tell her to tone it down. But she was having fun with her friends and I didn't see anything gratuitous about it, nor was she super drunk, so I told her it wasn't my place. We ended up wrapping up the party soon afterwards anyway. The morning after, we had breakfast with my family and my aunt mentioned to my wife that she was pleased that I eventually got her to tone down the fiesta. My wife asked what she meant by that, and my mom told her about the conversation from last night. My wife has told me about this. I was talking to my dad and uncle at the time and didn't hear. My wife apologized but was then very quiet for the rest of the day. And when we left the hotel, she was very upset with me, saying I should have told her that she had offended my family and that she was humiliated that I hadn't told her anything about it on the night like my aunt had assumed. I was sorry that she was humiliated, but I was not sorry that I hadn't told her to tone it down, because in my opinion, she didn't do anything wrong. She still thinks I should have just told her, because now she won't have a good relationship with her in-laws. She doesn't have a good one with her parents. I'm mad at my mom and aunt and want them to apologize to us, but she refuses to bring it up with them and wants to apologize again to them when they come over this weekend. I want to stand up for her because I think they're being incredibly rude, but she doesn't want that. She wants to mend bridges. She's still upset with me because I don't see it her way because I'm not sorry that I didn't tell her. So, am I the a-hole? Now for the advices. You and your wife are not the a-holes. Your family is so controlling and rude that when going to you didn't work, they told her to her face that she danced provocatively and pretended you did what they told you. This needs to stop immediately. You need to stand up for her and give them serious consequences, otherwise they will continue this throughout your relationship. And racist, don't forget racist. Tone down the fiesta, the audacity. Edit. If hating the Irish can be racist, so can hating the Spanish. Race is a social construct and does not always mean skin tone. They barely waited for the couple to get married before starting the racist BS. That's all for today. If you're enjoying this story, please like the video and share your thoughts in the comments section down below. Thank you.